Okay. It says we are live. So I think we're live. We're live in 2019. It's been a little while. It's been quite a while, huh? My goodness, we've actually had some crazy holidays, some fun Q4. Let me see here if I can actually pop on. I get to go and jump into YouTube and see if I can actually see some of the awesome stuff that you guys are saying. So right now I can't see it, and I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Sorry for being late. We actually, the Google Hangouts wasn't working right. Like the link wasn't working, and I actually have somebody that's going to pop on here with me. So hopefully they can do it in the middle of it. I'm not exactly sure if they can pop. I think they can. I think they can pop on in the middle of it. So that'll be cool. But anyways, so welcome. I hope everybody had an awesome ending to 2018. I do have to say that probably was the least favorite time frame of this year for me. So, I'm pretty open on Facebook and all that stuff. And my daughter, she did get sick and I gave it to her. I feel horrible. Like, she's almost 3 years old now, and thank God she's been, really healthy. And all through last season, of course, at this time, she's, 1.5 years old. I was super, super good about making sure that, if anybody's sick, be careful and blah, 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 whatever. Well, actually on my birthday, December 16th, I got sick. And the thing is I didn't really, I knew I was sick, but I didn't really feel all that sick. I had a nasty cough and all that kind of stuff and I knew I was sick, but I just was not careful. I just let my guard down, sharing drinks, all this kind of stuff with her. It was not good. Anyways, she got it. And for her, she was sick and cranky and all that kind of stuff, but she would not eat or drink. So it was horrible. And it stressed me and John out like crazy. We actually were dedicating basically every minute of our life to trying to, get fluids in her, which we know is the most important thing. Did everything outside of waterboarding her. And it was pretty bad, pretty traumatizing probably for her. Possibly a little bit more than us. I don't know, but it was bad. Anyways, we did end up having to take her into the hospital so she could get an IV and get rehydrated. And then thankfully, it was just overnight. She was good to go by morning. And that was that. So poor thing. But it was that entire situation happened all over Christmas week. So we had, my in-laws were in and, they were just excited to be able to see her. Thankfully, they got a couple of fun days with her before she got sick. So yeah, for me, it was a little bit traumatizing. And let's say I'm very excited about the new year. And my co-host, Amy, was not able to hop on tonight. I hope she's going to be able to come on here in the next couple weeks. And we can kind of get back into our awesome groove. I love doing the show with her. And she just, again, we got to interview her most recently, and she just rocked it in Q4. So in December. So I'm excited to hear a little bit more updates from her. So I promise you, we are going to get her back on ASAP. And then you all know Amy One, the queen of merch, Miss Amy Herberger. She has some amazing ideas for shows. Great topics, great guests. So be looking for all that because we are ready to rock this year and get you guys some really good content. So with that said, we discussed, over, I don't know, it's been the past couple weeks. There's been some posts, and I don't know if it's in the group or the page, probably in the Girl Boss group. And some people, have really been interested in wanting to know about time management. And Amy Herber is super gracious, and she's been always tagging me in this, letting people know that I've done some discussion on this. When I do, I have done a YouTube show not YouTube show. I just go live on Facebook for our page, our e-commerce page, Ecom Hustle Couple. And on there, I've talked about like some time management stuff. And so I thought that what a perfect time. Amy's not able to hop on tonight, and, we kind of want to get back in the groove. So what a perfect time to kind of talk about the time management stuff, right? I mean, we're kind of, I think, for me, clearly with, again, the traumatizing event that just happened. But I mean, even if you didn't go through that, the holidays are kind of wacky. They're, a lot of people are just all over the place. You're super busy, not in like a normal routine or anything like that. And so getting back into the groove can take a little bit. So again, this is kind of the perfect timing for that. Typically, what John and I would do at the end of the year is kind of that last week, our business for us to be actually working it slows down a little bit. Let's say like mid-December. So Q4 is just crazy, just insanity all the way up until my birthday. That's like what I always say. That's kind of what it's always been. And by the time we have my birthday, usually I'm able to be like, oh, okay, we don't have as much stuff to do anymore, because on our physical products side of the business, we really have to have everything into the warehouses already if it's going to be, sold or purchased or whatever for Christmas. And, not that we don't continue to sell stuff afterwards, but clearly that is like the high point that we really want to make sure that we have all our inventory in there, because things just sell like crazy. So yeah, by mid-December, we're prepped and have everything done. And, for the most part, outside of some customer service stuff, we actually get to chill a little bit. And again, at that point, I kind of take the time to prep for holidays and all that kind of stuff. And then the last week, once we get past Christmas, we kind of like to have like mini chats about, reflecting on the past year, kind of talking about what we're excited about, kind of what we want to do for the next year. And then right before the new year, we actually like sit down and kind of like map it all out and get pretty detailed on a lot of it. However, again, that didn't happen this year. So we did have our talks, but they were pushed back a little bit. You know what? That's, kind of what happens when life happens, and it's going to, not the first time, not the last time that, it got a little bit shaken up and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, you're popping on here.
The link didn't work.
The link didn't work. The Google Hangouts link didn't work. Oh, so we have a wonderful guest here, which is awesome because, you're on a little chair. You want to go get the other one?
No.
Okay, this is kind of, this is a little awkward.
Deal with it.
Okay, that's kind of funny. Okay. With this is good anyways, because actually he should probably be over here so he could see. He's going to go ahead and put on I could be able to see. You can probably put it right there. Or no, it'll be in front of us. Hop on so we can actually see the talking, or you can even do it on your phone because you're really good at kind of being able to respond. And you can just pull it up. I'll do a good job with that. So we're going to talk about like I said, kind of like our time management. This is something that we've had to refine over and over and over again. And I don't think that it's anything that will probably ever be static in our life because things change. We have a 2.5-year-old daughter now, and things are going to change with her. Her schedule is going to change. She's going to have school. She's going to have other stuff. But with that, the principles of how we lay out what we're going to do, that doesn't change. So we've been, again, all it really takes is for us to kind of get back into our groove and just follow through, basically. I'll take a break in a minute, but we'll kind of keep rolling with that. So basically what we like to do is, again, I talked about, looking at the year. And we don't really talk too far ahead when it comes to, you know, a lot of people will say like 5 years and all that stuff. I think 5-year visions are fantastic. I think when it comes to your life, and what you want your life to look like in 5 years, that's awesome. And I think that can be incredibly powerful. We've done, you know, vision boards before, you know, just really, and even writing down a day in the life of 5 years from now. And it's really incredible what can actually like manifest from that. And so when I say that we don't really do that for business, it's because over the 12 years that we've actually been in business, things have changed so dramatically. I couldn't even imagine like making that decision for what we want things to look like in 5 years, because it just changes. I mean, things just change really, really constantly. And so, you know, I think a year's time is perfect. Again, if you want to have massive, you know, overview vision, like, you know, creating a brand or kind of what you want to shoot for on that grand level, that's fantastic. But like kind of like day to day, how that works, I don't think it necessarily works. I like to do it kind of in year blocks. What do you think for when we work on it that way?
Yeah, like you said, business, especially online, is just evolving and changing so much that to say that your brand or your business is going to be here in 1 year, even, or 5 years, I mean, you know, some of the things you can focus on is I'm going to be debt free, or I'm going to be, you know, something that's a little bit more in your control. But as far as the business itself, I mean, you have to just be willing to go with the flow and roll with the punches, and really focus on the week to week, the day to day, the month to month activities that are going to basically get you to the goals that you set out, you know, that you set out to do.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So basically what we want to do, and so let's get into, instead of like the big goal stuff, we'll get into like the time management stuff. And since we do work together, you know, some people are, again, doing the businesses by themselves. They might be full-time, they might be part-time. They're, you know, some of their responsibility might be to take care of the children. Their spouse might be working outside of the house, might be a single parent, all this kind of stuff. So regardless, like when we go through this, obviously this is what we do, but it really does, it'll totally work for whatever situation you're in. You just have to apply it to your days, basically. So what I like to do, and this is kind of neat because this is really, we just hired on a full-time team member. I like to call her, you know, consider her a team member, because that's really what she is for us. And with that, there's a little bit more of a obligation and responsibility, I feel, on our part, not only for us to be, you know, structured, but for us to have a systemized way to structure our day. Because this is, when we're hiring somebody, this is going to be totally like virtual. She's going to be doing her thing. We do our thing. And so we're using, you know, like Slack and Trello to work together. And so we're working on formulating that. And it's been going really well. We just started working on that last month. So I think the flow is really, really good. And this week I had actually just mentioned to her, I'm like, you know what, I'm excited for us to kind of get together and collaborate, because, you know, we've been working on time management stuff for a very long time. And for John and I, we've gotten down a pretty decent flow, especially since, you know, we were kind of all over the place when we first had Ken's. So for like the first year, definitely all over the place. And then once we, you know, she got on a little bit more of a schedule, and we were just like, okay, we have to figure this out. It's been really good since then. And then one more year after, let's see, so right around her second birthday, so we actually decided that a couple days a week we were going to have somebody come and stay with her. They come over now from like 8:30 until noon, a couple days a week. That's been huge. So that was before. She does go to Montessori now for 3 days a week for 3 hours just in the morning. But so there's that time that we get to utilize, but then having somebody come over. That has been a really big game changer, because before it was like we were squeaking in our business time, you know, before she got up, which wasn't all that scheduled yet, or after she went to bed. And it just really wasn't conducive to running a solid business. So having somebody come in, and I knew that we were going to be able to make up that, you know, the cost of somebody being, I mean, they come to our house and we're still here. We still interact with her. And because we like being around her, but when we need to sit down and work together and have, you know, focused time, then we have the ability to do that. So one of the things that I do definitely suggest is, if you are, you know, working this as a business, realize that, you know, sometimes in order for you to really get stuff going and really get in a groove, if you do have children, you definitely need to be able to have that focus time. And that means getting a babysitter, or family member or something. It doesn't have to be a ton of time. It can be, you know, short snippets, a couple hours at a time, I would say, at least, for you to really have that focused time, and be able to actually allocate and have a structure, have a strategy. Because without that, gosh, you know, I talk to so many people and they feel like they're just spinning their wheels. And so let's figure out how you do not get caught up in all of that. So anything that you want to add yet?
No, I think you really touched on the main points. I mean, the important thing is you need to develop routine. You need to develop consistency, because the biggest way to have your business get away from you is to just dabble in it. And when you're trying to do it throughout the day without proper planning, with children involved or with whatever involved, it's just not going to happen. I mean, we're living examples of it, because that's what we tried to do for a while. And we just fell more and more and more behind with tasks. And that just created a hole that we couldn't get out of. So you need to find what works best for you. Because I know a lot of people say, well, you know, you do your best work in the morning, or you know, get up super early. And well, that's what we personally do. You know, I just got done reading the book, Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. And a lot of these people that he has on there that are uber successful, some of them get their best work done after the family goes down, and it's the evening for them, and they stay up late, and that's okay, because, you know, maybe they sleep in later. Really what you have to do is you have to find what works for you and establish a pattern, and get that consistency rolling, and really block off times where you can think, where you can focus, and when you can do work where you're not being disturbed, or, you know, you can be productive with giving it your undivided attention.
Well, and I do like to kind of challenge a little bit, because I definitely understand. I mean, people say, and there's only a small part that I'm going to challenge, and only because I think that it's kind of relevant to, you know, what we've been experiencing most recently. And there's so many people that say, you know, I'm not a morning person. And I don't think that morning person it does not have to be 5 a.m. club. I think that can be incredibly impactful if you're able to get in a group with that. But with that said, I absolutely believe that you need to have a solid 1 hour of you time in the morning before you start getting into anything else. And the reason why I'm actually bringing this up is because there's been, for so long, like, we would get on different, if you want to say, a kick or whatever, and like, that's it. You know what? I'm not super duper in a morning person, but I've done it over and over and over again, where I've got up really early because I know how incredibly productive it can be. And so recently we had decided that we were going to do, instead of 5 a.m., because we've done that before, and it's like hell for him. I mean, it's just bad. So we're like, okay, let's do 6 a.m. Not only has it been incredible for us, because the first thing is we literally just get up and go and read. And this is something that, again, we've implemented on and off before, but I think that this has been the first time, and maybe it's the time frame, I don't know what it is, but this has been the first time where it's been just a solid groove and kind of feels natural and feels really good. Like, and I remember too, when you first started doing that, it was like it was after like the first week, you're like, wow, I feel so much better. And maybe even less than the first week. He's like, wow, I feel great about this. Like, this is really good. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, 5 was not doable. 5 was a nightmare, and I would never go back to it. But for some reason, just that hour difference, and then starting my day off every morning with 30 to 40 minutes of reading, and then really just some unwind time where I can just kind of, you know, you can call it meditation, you can call it whatever you want, but it's just my alone time where I can think about the day, think about the things that I want to accomplish, you know. And another thing that helped too dramatically with being able to get up early and then working to the evening is just health and nutrition. I mean, that's one of the things that, you know, I don't think she talks about a lot, but it's a really important facet of our lives. You know, really having that on lockdown and understanding and controlling, you know, what you're doing, what you're putting into your body, what you're doing with your body. And I'm talking about physical fitness, you know, which is different for everybody. You know, for some people, it might be powerlifting. For others, it can be CrossFit. For some, it can just be a walk, you know, but just get moving. I mean, that helps so much with energy, with focus, with being able to get up early. So, I mean, you know, once again, it all just goes back to, you need to establish patterns and consistency in your life for any of this to work. You know, I've gotten pretty regimented with my training. She knows when I'm going to be training, and she supports me and is behind me. You know, and then that gives me the energy to get up early, hang out with Ken's, get our work done. You know, and just do everything that I want to do, and, you know, not be sluggish throughout the day and not lose focus when it is time to sit down and hammer things out for the business.
Well, and you know, it is really nice that he says, you know, I support him in him working out and stuff like that. Because I do value, I know how good that is for your mental state. Number one, I know we talk about mindset a lot, and that's really, really important. You know, there's been plenty of times within our life that we've felt really, really down about ourselves. And you don't want that for, you know, your significant other, the person that you love. That's the last thing that you want them to feel, you know. So that has been really important. And I do have to say, though, like, it's not something to where, because we don't have a heck of a lot of time, he's not going to a gym and spending 2.5 hours at the gym. You know, we have a 2.5-year-old daughter. For the most part, you know, a lot of times you'll see, like, I guess you haven't posted, but he'll post a lot of pictures. I mean, he'll post like the videos, but you'll post a lot of pictures, and Ken's is out there interacting. You know, in our garage, we created a gym in our garage, and you don't have to do a full-on gym. You know, this is kind of leftovers from, we actually had at our last house, we actually had a massive gym. We used to do some different training and train some people down there, kind of like a CrossFit style box, and we could train like 20 people down there. It was pretty wicked. And so now we have some of that residual stuff there. But I mean, you don't need all of that. You can get a home program. You can do whatever. You can walk. Go out and walk outside for 30 minutes. I don't care. Rain, snow, sleet, or shine. It'll be good for you. And so you can go and do that. Just 30 minutes of a brisk walk every single day. Incredibly important. And so, but with that, you know, like I said, it's really pretty efficient. Even if he's going to take an hour, maybe an hour and a half workout, like max, from start to finish, which is not, he's not doing those long ones anymore. But if he chooses to do that for some of his training, then it's an hour and a half start to finish. Like, it's not like he has to drive to the gym, get there, start, it turns into this, you know, again, 2.5 hour whole project. Plus Ken's is out there with him. So if Ken's is out there hanging with him, you know, I can go and I can have focused work. So getting down to like how to actually like structure that and what we do. And I think a good way to start it, because we don't have to go into like full on business plan mode. I think that's important to be able to do, but I want to talk the time management kind of like on a week-to-week basis, because I think that is something that everybody has different ways that they are doing their business, or that they're going to continue to evolve their business. But having this, being able to look at your week, if you have your own, whether it's just your own schedule or you have other people that are going to be kind of impacting your schedule, children, significant others, whatever, use some sort of collective app or a Google Calendar. So we use Google Calendar. We've been using that for, years, whatever, and we had joined our calendars. So anytime I put something in my calendar, it automatically shows up on his calendar and vice versa. So anything that is scheduled has a specific time that I need to notify of, we put that in there right away. And so obviously if it's something a few weeks ahead, then, it makes it, that's not something that we have to totally worry about that week. But if it's something that's like in the middle of the week, then we make sure to notify the other person. A lot of times it's in, say, an email or a text or something, because again, when we're working, we're blocking out our time. There's sometimes we're working side by side because our office is set up like that. Or, he's working out in the garage because we do have an area set up for that for business too. We have a lot of different areas there. And if that's the case, it's not like we want to be running, into each other and being like, hey, guess what? Okay, this, and breaking up their focus. Because I think that's one of the biggest things that we've been able to do pretty well is prioritize. And so when we're looking at our week and we look at our Google Calendar at least once, probably more. I look at it a lot more, but we're looking at the week and we're like, okay, what do we want to accomplish this week? And where do we get that goals or what we want to do? We get that from our bigger business plan. It starts with a year, we break it down by month. And then each month we're looking like, okay, but this is what we want to get accomplished this month. We're going to look at it this week. How are we going to put, these tasks in throughout this week? So each week is different. Our business, we travel. There's different times that we're traveling. Sometimes we're traveling together. Sometimes it's one of us. So that's why, that's just how we work it. We have to go through and we have to be realistic and see what's going on there. So again, you could do that if you have a 9 to 5 or whatever it is. You're going to have to blank it out and block out those times. So that's just what we do. We look at it. We have, okay, this is kind of a light week. Great. We're going to be able to, really load up and get a lot done. Or we look at it and we're like, okay, wow, we have a lot going on. Let's be realistic, because the last thing that we want to do is totally stress ourselves out to the point to where we feel like we're getting nothing done, when it's really not that fair, because we have a lot of other stuff going on.
And I think one thing too that's important, excuse me, one thing that's important is having some sort of task management or project management software in place. And with us specifically, one thing that made a big, huge difference is when we started using something called Trello. There's a lot of similar apps out there. That's just the one we happen to go with, because one of the things that I would do is I'd be working and I'd get an idea or something that I knew was like, oh, this would add value to the business. I need to get this done. And I would put it on little sticky notes. And next thing I know, at the end of the week, I have 16 different little yellow sticky notes across the bottom of my screen, on the edges of my keyboard. Well,
and I can cover my face, but actually my thing is notebooks.
Yeah, she's got about 50 notebooks that she never goes back to. So.
I don't do it on purpose. I use them as a date.
I've got sticky, you've got notebooks.
Yeah, but anyways.
So once we started using Trello, whether I'm away from the computer, I have the app on my phone, or I'm sitting getting work done, it's really easy just to pop in there, and you've got your cards, you've got your list. You can just throw the task in there. And then every few days, or whenever you have your team meeting, or if it's just you working by yourself, you can pick a 1 day or 2 days during the week where you sit down and you prioritize. You can have a high priority list. You can have a low priority list, things that need to get done immediately. Whatever the case may be, you can break them out and sort them out. But at least it gives you a way to visually see everything that's on your plate that you want to get done, and see which items are the high priority items. And then as you get them done, you can move them over into a completed list. And it just makes it easy to be able to manage all the things going on within a business, especially if you're working with a spouse or a business partner or multiple partners.
Yeah, absolutely. And Trello is free. So we actually still use the free version. We had the opportunity to test out I think it's with them, it's the gold version or something. I didn't see any not a lot of value in it for what we used it for. So you can use it also for your personal life. I have boards for, our travel schedule. I have a board. I have a board for our personal stuff, stuff that I need to schedule for us, whether it's, health appointments or whatever, things like that. And then so after we look and see what we want to accomplish that week, again, then we break it out by day. So I need to go through and I'm like, okay, now you need to prioritize. And so that is incredibly important, being able to prioritize and stick with it. So it takes a lot of discipline, I think, to do that still all the time, because there's plenty of things. Naturally, there's activities that you tend to either enjoy more or just other ones that you really don't want to do. So naturally, you're like, okay, well, I have all this stuff to do. I'm going to just sit here and plow away, and I am just cranking it out. I love to do the designing. I'm just designing a ton, but guess what? Uploading's not happening, or, whatever. Well, you need to figure out what activities you need to do to keep that needle moving in the right direction. And so that's one of the things that I think you need to always be conscious of. We always have to be conscious of it. We have to check ourselves often. We have to check each other, which sometimes goes good, sometimes doesn't go so well. It just depends on how you go about it. But so how do you say that, prioritizing, what do you have to say about that? Because I don't think that that's a super easy thing
I have to admit, I wasn't paying attention to anything you were saying. I was having fun with the comments and responding.
That's good. So you have to have that part. You guys, we are like, this is why we make a really good team, and this is why we need software to kind of bring us together so we can be on the same page, because otherwise we would totally be.
I heard you talking about something about priorities and focus and paying attention, but I was responding to James Riscoli. He had some feedback there.
All right, good. So no, basically, just what I was asking is, okay. So at this point, I kind of take on like the kind of like the prioritizing part of it. And actually, I was asking you like what you thought about like the prioritizing part of it, but I mean, it wasn't really a
you do a good job.
Question about thank you.
Keep it up.
Okay. So anyway,
the thing is, I had this running joke with her that she's the architect and I'm the hammer, but it's kind of true. I mean,
now we kind of stole this actually. Do you remember when it was kind of an aha moment a little bit. Do you remember? No. Okay. So you'll remember now. So I'll tell you. So last year we went to 10X GrowthCon. And during that, love him or hate him, Grant Cardone, there was a lot of great information there. And one of the things that we kind of took away was when he was talking with on stage with his wife, Elena. And they were just talking about how they, work together. And I think, again, that's always an ever-evolving thing. But it was really interesting because we kind of realized that for a long time, we were trying to be very respectful of each other and what we do. And as a husband and wife, that's really, really important. However, we started to see that what we were doing was kind of a disservice to our strengths. And I highly respect, what he's able to do and what he's able to accomplish. And I don't want to do that stuff. I just don't. And there's a lot of that stuff that he really enjoys, and he's a badass at it, and then vice versa. That's not really something that he wants to do. He really you're really good at just attacking stuff and like going at it and getting stuff done. But like the formulating of it, it's kind of like, you don't want to like sit there and kind of, plan it out. However, both are really important. So if you don't have, it's interesting because I think that if you're doing this on your own, there can be a benefit to that. You don't need somebody to do like that other part of it, because then you're just basically managing yourself and your time. And so it took us a little while to actually figure out that groove. And since then, for this past year, that's what we've kind of been working on, and kind of visualizing ourselves as, instead of like, 50-50 workers, whatever you want to say, true business partners, to where, again, we are very much opposite. And we have some really awesome strengths, but we both have weaknesses that a lot of times the other one can kind of help to fill in. And so by recognizing those and allowing the other person to kind of step into what they're really, really good at, I think it's really helped a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's especially important and good advice, For those of you that are working in partnerships, whether it's a friend, whatever, a spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, business partner, is you really need to take inventory of the things that you're good at and the things that you're not. Because one of the things that we come across when talking to other people that are involved in business partnerships is they try to squeeze people into roles, whether that's the role best suited for them. And that's just a recipe for disaster. And I know that's in the past, we've had that issue between us, and it causes nothing but frustration, fights, stress, when you say, well, you have to do this because this is just your task, even though it's something that A, I don't enjoy, B, it's not a strength of mine, and vice versa with her. I mean, there's times where I told her, you need to do this, and even though I know in my head it makes more sense for me to do it. So once we really got that out into the open of, okay, these are the things that you excel at, and we no longer looked at it as, well, are you doing 50% of the work, or am I doing 50% of the work? What percentage? Throw that out the window. It's not about percentages. It's about what's going to lift the company in the business as a whole. And you know what? There's days where she probably does do 80 to 90% of the business, and I'm only doing 10 to 20%. Then there's other days where that gets flipped around, depending on where we're at and what needs to get done for that particular week or task. So don't focus on time spent and percentages. Focus on what you're good at, what your strengths are, and make sure the person that is strong in those areas is delegated that work, and that's how you go about dividing activities and tasks.
Yeah. And so, the nice thing is too, is that because we're putting together our schedule and going through and blocking out the stuff, like, okay, we know that there's some activities that are going to need a little bit more focused work or time. And there's a lot of times I'll talk, like, we'll game plan this together. And I'll be like, okay, so I know that we want you to get through, some of this training so that you can implement this. So estimate, how long is this going to take you? And you really don't know. Like, that's not something that it's just basically, okay, let's do an estimation. We need to have a starting point on something. And you can be like, okay, I think that it's going to take me, X amount of time. And like today, like there's some stuff that he had to do, and it actually had ended up taking, a lot longer than initially anticipated. But it's just something, it was a priority. It just had to get done. So regardless, when he was talking about like, okay, you're focused and you're working mostly on the business, then that means that the other person is, take for me personally, it's like taking on Ken's and making sure that, he's able to focus on all of that. And so structuring out the days, I think it's very helpful. We used to literally do like hour by hour by hour. And sometimes we do. If our schedule is, crazy tight, and there's a lot of stuff going on, then, hey, we need to block this out. We need to know, like, okay, this is what you're doing. This is what I'm doing. And so, but each day it's imperative that we do know what the other person's doing, again, because if something has to get done for the business, then the other person is going to have to be either like, taking care of Kenzie or whatever. So that's how we actually have to work and structure things. A lot of times, like when we're going to do stuff together, like if we have like conference calls or whatever, we know that we're going to be able to block those in from, depending on if Kenzie's at, Montessori, or if we have somebody here for her, that's the time that we can schedule it. Or, right after she goes to bed, that's the time that we can schedule it. And that's just what we do. We truly treat this like, this isn't just like a whimsical, day-to-day, life, whatever, just because we can. It's like, we do structure it out like it is a true business. And I think that also helps us feel accomplished once we get through stuff. And again, I know that this is only going to continue to get even more refined now that we have a third person on our team. And I'm really, really excited about that, because I don't think, we talk about, I talked about our Facebook page, and it's called Ecom Hustle Couple. And I do, take pride in being able to hustle and grind and all that kind of stuff. And I know a lot of people that are just crushing it in merch, same thing. But at the same time, that to me does not mean that you're working 24/7. That to me does not mean that forever you are sacrificing everything. That's not the goal, right? I mean, initially, yeah, you're going to have to, there's going to be some blood, sweat, and tears. There's going to be some failures. There's going to be all that kind of stuff. But that's not what the goal is forever. The reason you're doing this is so that you can design the life that you want and structure it how you want. And for us, you know, that means just having just choices for whatever we want to do. You know what? What a blessing was it that we got to focus all of our energy for a week and a half, you know, on my daughter through this entire process that we had to deal with. And it was just poor thing. I mean, on her entire, you know, winter break, that's what she's going through. But, you know, every minute, like there was times, you know, she's coughing up in the middle of the night and we're trying to figure this out and we're lack of sleep and all this kind of stuff. But we had the ability to do that. Like we didn't have to ask somebody like, hey, you know, oh my gosh, this is really stressful. I could not imagine having to go to a job
and leaving her that way. How stressful. And then coming home, say it vice versa. Maybe it was me going to a job. Maybe it was him going to a job. And then he's coming home with me. I know we're unemployable, but coming home and like crazy stressed, you know, and the spouse coming home to that. And so, I mean, with that, it's an incredible blessing. So there are things that we really have to appreciate, but make sure that we're operating like a true business. So I'm trying to think of what else. Like, do you guys have any questions? I mean, I'm keeping an eye. None have come through so far. So if you've got any questions, throw them out. I mean, about anything regarding time management, business management, our relationship, you know, and how we work that. I mean, we're very transparent and we're pretty much an open book. So feel free to ask any question.
Oh man, to this crowd, who knows what they're going to ask? Who's on here? I don't think we should just say that because I mean, who knows what's going to pop up? No, but so I'm trying to think of what else. I'm trying to think of like how, you know, I've mentioned this book before. It's been a while since I've actually read the book. But there is an awesome book by Brian Tracy called Eat That Frog. And I know that you appreciate that and you appreciate that principle and you do a good job of explaining it. So share a little bit about that. Cause he actually says this. How long has it been since you read that book?
Years.
Probably. I don't think it was
years.
Do you even think that you read it in the last house? I don't think you did.
Maybe. I don't know. It's been a while.
I don't know. Like I would say probably 5+ maybe.
I mean, the principle is
He says this regularly. Like, oh, I eat my frog. I eat my frog. Whatever.
The principle is very. I mean, it's an easy read because it's a very easy principle. When you sit down to do your work, and you have a bunch of tasks in front of you, always pick the one that's the gnarliest, the one that's going to take the longest, the one that you're most pissed about having to do, the one that you don't want to do, and just get that one out of the way first. Because after that, everything just seems easy. Everything seems like it's a downhill ride after that. So, like she said,
you don't have it looming over your head. Like you're doing all these other tasks and you're like dreading. I mean, that'll affect your day.
Yeah, because, you know, it's human nature to want to go after the one that you know is either going to get done quickly or the one that's easy. But like you said, when you do that, in the back of your mind, you still have that one task that you just know that's just going to be the ass kicker that's just lingering. So just suck it up, Cupcake. Get in there and get that done first. And then after that, you know, it's a smooth ride after that.
Yeah. Like I said, it's regular. I mean, I can't, a couple times a week, he'll always say, you know, like a lot of times it'll be, I don't know, if we're processing something with inventory, or again, it's just something that's gonna, you know, it's gonna take a long time, and you know that, and whatever. And like, again, once you knock that out, like you feel awesome, and that other stuff, you're just like, done. I got this done. So I think that's a really awesome tip. That book is awesome too. I mean, you can listen to it on Audible, or you can get it. It's a super easy read. But again, this is something I haven't read that book in years, but it's definitely in our daily life. It pops up in our daily life, and we definitely utilize the principles in that book.
Nelson's asking, are you able to completely switch off? I don't think you don't.
Not me.
I do. I am definitely able to. And one of the places that I do that is in the gym. I mean, that's another reason why working out is important to me, because it allows me to let go of everything that's going on in life and with the business, with everything. I mean, when I get in there, especially because I do a lot of power training, so I'm working with heavy weights, and that's not to brag. That's just to say that I have to focus. And if my mind's elsewhere, if I'm thinking about, this task or that task, I can very realistically get injured with the stuff that I'm doing. So I get in there and I'm just one dimensional. I'm focused on what I'm doing in there. And it's my release. It's my escape from all the madness, especially coming off of Q4. And, that's just what I do. And I don't know. I mean, like you said, I don't really see you turning off completely. No. Maybe you wind down and you do a good job of winding down, but I don't think you have an off button.
I mean, but I really enjoy it. I do. And the thing that I need to respect though, and this goes more into a relationship type thing, is that's one of the things that I really appreciate. I mean, I do cherish time with our family and time with my daughter and time with my husband. And, that is absolutely important to me. I just know that like there's things that we are, working on, and kind of it's really easy. I mean, we've been doing this for 12 years. It can be incredibly easy just to let your guard down. And when you don't have a boss telling you what to do, not having that structure, or just kind of letting it go for a little while. To me, I'm just really conscious of that and wanting to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, like 3C put, my problem is turning it off. I feel that I should always be working, and I'm thinking about things that need to be done. And that's exactly why using something like Trello is good, because you can give yourself expectations. You can give yourself tasks that when you've accomplished these things on this board, that you've had a complete week or you've had a complete day, and then reward yourself. Like one of the things we talk about is, like we're going to have a Friday night date night or Saturday family fun time.
I turn it off then. I do. Like I have, when we have our time to like go out, like I'm good. Like, and we do that like that I feel. And there's been plenty of times where like, wow, we crushed this week and it just feels good. Like this weekend, you know what? John's birthday was the 28th of December and Kenzie went in for her hospital visit the 29th. So the 28th, we were not doing anything but worried about our daughter, not knowing, if we were going to have to take her in or not, because she wouldn't drink water. So when we didn't really have, much of a celebration there, and that's fine with us because we knew we were going to be able to reschedule. So we actually rescheduled for this Friday. So I know this is blocked off in our calendar. So like, yeah, I have to schedule my fun time. Like I do. And when I do, I'm good. Like I just went out and I hung out with my girlfriends on Saturday, and I was able to just, hang out, and I wasn't sitting there thinking about, because that was just something that was in there and I knew that. And with that though, the reason why I was able to do that is because I had my other stuff scheduled. I wasn't just, again, if I was just so whimsical about it and then I had my girls' night out without feeling accomplished or knowing that I got done what I should have gotten done, then yeah, I'd probably be pretty caught up with not having that stuff accomplished. But I think the way that you really get away from that, and 3C, you can kind of maybe give a little bit more details once I start sharing about this, but is it because you have, I think Trello is great, but for what we're specifically talking about, me personally, that's why I have to have like my notebook, and I do it, like you can have a binder, you can have a planner, maybe I'll create a planner at some point, but you can have a planner to where you have your day. And when you look at it and you say, okay, this is what I need to accomplish today. Once you get good at like scheduling that stuff out and prioritizing, and like John said, you eat your frog, you're going to find out that you have a lot more time than you think if you use focused time. So I think that's the key. I think that as long as you are having sufficient enough blocks, you're not overloading your day, you're being realistic with what you're accomplishing. And when you're working, shut everything else off. Like you don't need to have Facebook open. And that's fine if you do, but if you're struggling and you're not feeling like you're getting stuff done, then that's a problem and you're going to need to adjust that. So when you really need to sit there and focus, go ahead.
Well, he expanded further. And
I think it's
3C. No, well, she expanded further. They put, I don't have little ones or a spouse anymore, so it's just me, no distractions. So how can I reward myself? Or how to cut it off in my head. It's just me and my dogs and my camper with a laptop.
That's what I thought it was too. Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing. You just have to decide, what do you like to do? Why are you doing this business? Like, really, like, and sometimes this is a deep question. This can take a little while. You know, again, for me, I'm doing this business to have options, to be able to dictate my day, to have, you know, finances not impede anything that, you know, we want to do. Again, whether it's take off a few days, go and travel, do whatever. I mean, again, I'm not a big materialistic person, but like, I love experiences. So I just don't want to be bound by my finances to be able to go and do that kind of stuff. So just figuring that out for yourself. And it is so much more. I mean, one of the things that I think it would be really good for you to kind of analyze and look is maybe you need to kind of jot down what you do. So like, this is the same thing with like, people say, oh, I have like an eating log or whatever. Like, yeah, anytime that you're not really sure what's going on and you feel like you're spinning your wheels in something, you need to write stuff down. So maybe it takes 2 weeks, maybe whatever. Go through and write down what you're doing, you know, daily. And you need to kind of figure out, why do you feel that constant need to work? Because there's definitely times where I can, when I say turn it off, I turn it off to a different thing. Like I redirect it to something else, whether it's me working on, you know, our travel plans in life or whatever it is. But
yeah, because, you know, obviously you're working to generate money, but that money is for something. So really, I mean, you have to sort of self-reflect and figure out what it is that you're working for aside from the money. What's the money for? You know, what are your passions? What are the things that you're looking to do? And then that's kind of how you start shifting that mind to turning it off to focus on those things. And then, like she said, you know, you start creating days that are intentional with tasks that are intentional. So you know that when those things are accomplished and done, that you can then turn it off and focus on those things that you're working for.
Yeah. Because if you do write it down and you're able to look back and say, oh my gosh, wow, I got a heck of a lot accomplished, that's a totally different feeling. And we've been there. We go back and forth with this, though. There will be times where it's just like, we have so much, it's like amount of stuff to do. Again, most of the time during Q4, it's kind of nice right now. But so much stuff that's just pressing, that's like nonstop. So if we don't take that and like break it out, then yeah, we would drive ourselves crazy. So I think we do a pretty good job about that.
Yeah. So James asked, thinking back to when you guys were still in day jobs, wow, that was a long time ago. What was your strategy for growing the business to a point where you could burn the boats?
All right. So this is something that is pretty interesting, I guess, on my part. Because 12 years, almost 13 years now, full time. I really only had a day job for a minute, and I was doing mortgages like right out of college. So, you know, I went to college, and like I said, pretty much immediately after that is when I just fell into doing mortgages. And that's a crazy job anyways. I know some of you guys have heard Anthony start telling about that. That's actually how I met John.
We were both doing mortgages.
Yeah. And so I randomly fell into reselling books on Amazon while I was doing mortgages. And so that's been a progression from then. But there was not much time because I was already working. I didn't have a 9-to-5. I was full commission there. And I was doing well enough to where I was already able to like work from home from that. So I'm not the best person to talk about structuring. And even so, John had about 3 years, maybe 2 years, about 2 years. He did have a full-time job for probably the next 2 years, maybe like 1.5. And he would just, when he would come home, he would just help, you know, work the business at that point. So, but I think that regardless, I think that it doesn't really matter because I think we can give some really solid tips on that regardless. So, you know, if you do have a 9-to-5, like a standard day job, then it's the same. I mean, it's the same as if like I'm blocking my life out. You need to look at your week and block it out. If you're working from 9 to 5 and you know you have travel time and you know whatever, then you block that time out. Like, it's just like anything, like if we have an appointment or whatever. So I think there's a little bit of a misconception, because a lot of people will be like, oh my gosh, well, I want to work. I would love, my business would be amazing if I was, being able to work it every day and I didn't have this job. But you have to understand, like, you have the job for a reason, and you don't have the, as much of financial stress as to where your business is not solely supporting you. That is a whole nother, like, ball game. And again, it is a huge blessing to be able to have that. But at the same time, like, the stresses that go along with that and the pressures and being able to actually, and again, that's a whole nother talk, being able to actually deal with that, especially with the ups and downs in business, and not letting that kind of get into your head when you need to focus, when you need to work, and when all you do is see fires everywhere in your business. That's pretty crazy. So I think that it's relatively simple. You just look at it like, okay, I have this 9 to 5, block that out in your calendar. Okay. So then what time do you have left? Give yourself enough time to have reasonable, healthy sleep, whatever you can feel decent on. Other than that, you need to be very intentional about your time. I think that you need to be, with us, again, it's kind of sporadic. It's broken up. It changes day by day. If you have a day job that you're able to actually be really consistent, then you can be really consistent with your schedule. And I know, James, you don't have, any children yet, maybe soon, whatever, but you don't have any children yet. So with that, you have a lot of control over that, and you're able to be regimented, and you're able to schedule that out. So just block that out. And when you're committed to that time, just be very intentional about it.
I will say this, when the time does come and you're ready to burn the boats, just make sure your mental game is on point. That's one of the biggest things, is when you're going to burn those boats and you're going to turn in that notice and walk away from that job or walk away from that career, you better be ready to go all in, because things can change at the drop of a dime. And if you're not prepared to just do whatever it takes to survive and make it happen, you're going to go running back to that job or boss quicker than you left. And then trust me, you don't want to do that. So if you truly intend to, make e-commerce or merch or whatever you have going on the side right now, the full-time thing, be intelligent about it. Make sure your finances are in order. Make sure you have your rainy day fund in place. Make sure you've got an outlook, and you've got projections, and make sure you're making an intelligent decision. You're not just doing it because you had a good month or a couple good months and you think that's just how it's going to continue to go. Really have some solid data, some solid numbers, and some realistic expectations. And then, once you do burn the boats, then then it's game on. And then you really got to go after it and be prepared to, live the life that you now created for yourself.
What's funny is that and I think this is really awesome too, like, I respect and, love his view, and I know vice versa. It's just how it always is. But like with me, I guess you just kind of have to realize maybe who you're connecting with when they're going to talk about this. Cause like on my end, I'm like, nothing's, I don't think you have to burn the boats necessarily. I said for me, like, hey, like when I did leave, I was open with, my job, and they were basically like, I was on full commission, and I was definitely one of their, top producers, and they just kind of laughed in a nice way. It was like, okay, well, when your little book thing doesn't work, we're welcome, we'll welcome you back. It'll be, great. And I know some people, if you're leaving in a position where somebody else is going to take your spot, that's not going to really work. But it doesn't have to be so permanent either. So definitely be prepared. I'm not taking away from any of that. The last thing that you want to do, again, is run a business trust. That's freaking hard. Like, you want to set yourself up, for as much success as possible. But that's going to be different for everybody, but also realize that don't be super, super duper afraid of, failing and whatever, because it could happen and it's not the end of the world. You know what? There's plenty of people. I talked to a lot of people in our space that have been doing, e-commerce for a while. And one of our friends just, you know, shared with us, he's a really, really big seller, and he got some mega hits in this past year, and not for everything, you know, that he did or that he could necessarily control. And but you know, he knows what he's going to do. He's going to rebuild it. That's just how it is. It's kind of like the nature of the beast. So he's not looking at this like, oh my gosh, now, you know, he's been doing this for 3 years. He's not looking back like, oh my gosh, now I have to go back to corporate America. You know, he's going to make it work. He knows what's to do. He's going to put in the time. He's going to have to grind. He's going to have to hustle. He's going to have to be, you know, really intelligent about his time, strategic. He's going to have to continue to level up, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see, again, kind of like the two different takes on that. Again, definitely be prepared, but I don't want anybody to be super fearful either, because I think a lot of times that can hold people back. And I know how incredible, just highlight, you know, 3C that was on here talking about how she's, you know, traveling around in a camper and doing POD. How cool is that, you know? And we've actually talked about that. I mean, I don't think that we're going to take our pup Bella with us and travel around. I don't know, maybe we would, but you know, we've talked about that. Like, heck, why wouldn't we just go like get a camper and, you know, travel around and do whatever? And maybe that'll be something in our future. But I think that's so cool that it's just something that's so different. And I think that this type of business, Amazon merch, online retail, whatever you're doing, it really allows you to think differently. It really allows you to realize that you don't have to fit into a little box, and you should be able to step back and be like, what do I really want? What would be really, really cool? You know, we have friends. One of our friends just bought a one-way ticket to Thailand. Like, how freaking cool is that? They will be coming back, but they're not sure when yet. They're gonna wing it. They're gonna roll with it. I'm like, that's incredible. Like, not many people do, you know, just do that. And so that's the type of, you know, life that you can have. But in the same time, again, that time management, that structure, that discipline, that's something that you're going to get for yourself. And really, I think one of the best ways that we get that is from books and personal development. That's the number one way. Without that, I mean, what are the 2 books that you have coming now? Because you just ordered a couple. The
Ed Mylett book and the Michael Goggins book. I actually don't remember their names. Ed Mylett's book is, I think, Max Out.
Yeah. Both of them are really, really mindset books. And so that's something that I think is huge. Like we talk about, like, we don't read a bunch of like, you know, I read some, like, right now I'm reading a really awesome like marketing book, and I've read a good amount of like different like business books and things like that. But the mindset and the discipline and all of that, because you can utilize that and you can apply it to anything. And so if you have that, again, you're going to be able to kind of figure out and navigate and get through everything. Because I think a lot of people get caught up with this time management thing and trying to figure that out. And again, the biggest thing that I can suggest is, you know, write that stuff down.
Real quick, I don't know why I said Michael Goggins. It's David Goggins, and the name of the book is Can't Hurt Me.
There you go.
Yeah, and I know him, and I've followed him for years, so I can't believe I screwed up his name. But
don't tell him.
Yeah, he's a Navy SEAL, ultra athlete, superhuman, immortal. Yeah. And his I've heard a lot of great things about his book. I think James was listening to it on Audible. And yeah, so I just pulled the trigger. It should be coming here tomorrow. And then Ed Mylett's book, which we heard him at GrowthCon last year, and we've started listening to his podcast, and the guy gets it. I mean, his thought process on life is right in line with ours. So I'm excited to read his book too.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just do kind of like closing statements. Unless he pops on and like sees anything else, we'll definitely address that and you know, answer any questions. So just interrupt whenever. But, you know, what I think I'd like to leave you guys with in regards to, you know, time management and stuff like that is, number one, just be okay with it being a work in progress, because it really, that's how it's going to be. You have to figure out what works for you. Everybody has, you know, different buttons that you can figure out what's going to drive you, figure out what's going to motivate you, what's going to inspire you. So you need to really dig deep and figure that out. And then you need to figure out what works for you. You know, if you've been doing merch or any other business and you're like, okay, there's been specific times where you've been super on point, find out why. Take a step back and be like, why was that? You know, why was I really on point? Was I getting good sleep? You know, was I really focused? You have to analyze that for yourself. And so again, give yourself time to be able to do that. So it's going to take a little while for you to get into your groove. And then guess what? Life might even shake you up. You might have a kid. You might, have a significant other, and maybe you didn't have that before. And then you're going to have to reevaluate. But once you get those, the principles to be able to evaluate how to manage your time, you can apply it in any situation. That's why, I'm sitting here saying, like, whether you have a job or whatever, it's no different. You block it. If you have stuff that you're committed to, block out that time. Like I block out, like I literally have, we know, like, we're going to have date night or whatever. Like, we have it. It starts at 5 p.m. on Friday. That 5 p.m. on is blocked out. So whether it's a job, whether it's going out and having fun, whatever, I know that is not a time that I'm going to be able to put business stuff in there. So we have to work it around that. And that's
when she turns it off, but then she spends all the days prior making sure that all the important tasks are getting done.
So it's not going to bother me.
So then when 5 o'clock on Friday comes along, she can guilt-free walk away from the computer, put her phone down, and go have a fun time with her family and her awesome husband.
That's him. It's pretty awesome.
Hashtag true story.
All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining us. Again, sorry for being late. That Google Hangout link didn't even work for him anyways, so it's all good. We got on here. You guys are awesome. Again, I really hope that we get to have Miss Amy Springer back on here with us next week. We'll see, because she rocks it.
So I can't do this 2 weeks in a row.
So, and so, yeah, guys, so I hope that does help. And we will, if there's anything on here, no more questions. I think we're probably good.
Well done, guys.
Aww.
Amy said, great show. See you next week.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All right. Amy. Everybody have a wonderful night. Have a great week. Start blocking out your days. I promise
start working out.
Start blocking out your days, and I promise you that you will find, and again, there'll be days where you're like, wow, I accomplished, I felt great, this was good. Again, take note of that. Note when you feel good. Note when you have a day where you feel very fulfilled and accomplished, and figure out why. And then just repeat that. All right? So, all right, guys, have a wonderful night.
Peace.
Later. We're fighting over the mouse now.
Stop touching it.